ask the audience to please stand for the processional.
Welcome to the winter commencement of Rhode Island College in its 130th year, the first winter commencement in which we're not competing with the Super Bowl. The convocation will begin with the singing of the national anthem, and please remain standing for the invocation, which will be given by the Reverend Robert A. Marcantonio, chaplain of Rhode Island College.
19th century writer George Eliot wrote, "The strongest principle of growth lies in human choice." Let us pause and pray at this time of celebration and beginnings to our God, grateful for the choices these graduates have made, seeking the gift of wisdom for their future choices. God of truth, we thank you for the success of these graduates in pursuing the knowledge and skills of their chosen fields of study. May they continue to choose to face the truth, even when the truth compels them to pursue a difficult course of action. God of justice, we thank you for the opportunity these students have had to examine their values. May they choose the path of action which leads to justice and peace in a world which desperately is searching for ways to alleviate aggression between neighbors as well as between nations. God of love, we thank you for the community that has been formed among these students and for the support they have received from family, friends, faculty, and staff. Instead of falling in and out of love, may they choose to love other people with a commitment which endures through times of both enjoyment and sacrifice. God of love and life, you call us to growth and maturity. Your plans, for reasons known to you, involves growth pains and risk. As we are confident you are present with us in this celebration, be with us as we make the choices which lead to growth and fuller liveliness. Amen.
It is good to have you all with us today to celebrate on this occasion of beginnings and endings for our graduating students. And we have some very distinguished guests with us to bring greetings. First, to greet the graduates and guests on behalf of the Board of Governors for Higher Education, it is a distinct pleasure to present Mr. Albert E. Carlotti, Chairman of the Board of Governors. Mr. Carlotti.
Thank you, David. Reverend clergy, members of the Board of Governors, Commissioner McMahon, distinguished guests, faculty and administration, families and friends, and 1984 graduates. It gives me a great pleasure to bring you the greetings of the Board of Governors for Higher Education. I began 1984 with a greater conviction than ever before that public higher education in our state has the support of our citizens. And I'm sure that every citizen takes great pride in our institutions of higher education. The Board of Governors is committed to supporting and strengthen its system of public institutions. We are committed to provide higher education that is responsive to the preferences of students and the needs of the state. Rhode Island's economic future is tied directly to the capacity of its institutions to train skilled people who in turn help to attract and keep the kinds of businesses and industries vital to our economy. Rhode Island College has an exciting role to play in the future of our state. Rhode Island College has continuously demonstrated that it has vitality and vision to deal with the future. It has proven today that through graduates like yourselves will contribute to the social, moral, and economic health of our state. But we are here today to honor you. As I look at the people in this audience, I can see the pleasure on the faces of parents, husbands and wives, children and friends. It was your hard work, commitment, and patience that brought you to this moment. It was the understanding and support of those around you who made it worth doing. And they share with you the satisfaction of a job well done. Now you join a select group of Rhode Island College alumni. As an honorary alumnus, I can speak for Rhode Island College alumni as well as the Board of Governors when I say congratulations. My wish for you personally is that you will be successful and will find satisfaction in what you do. My challenge to you is that whatever you do it well and bring honor to yourself, your family, and your alma mater. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carlotti. To bring the greetings of the Office of Higher Education for the state of Rhode Island, I am pleased to present Dr. Eleanor M. McMahon, Commissioner of Higher Education and Distinguished Professor of Education at Rhode Island College. Dr. McMahon.
Dr. Sweet, Mr. Carlotti, and members of the board, honored guests, distinguished members of the Rhode Island College faculty and administration, and graduates. My congratulations and warm wishes to each of you and to your families and friends. May you all take a full measure of joy and pride in the accomplishments we celebrate today. As you are undoubtedly aware, you are among the world's first collegiate members of the class of 1984, a year made famous more than 3 decades ago when George Orwell published his futuristic novel, 1984. The central theme of Orwell's book was that 1984 would be a world of high technology, an information society, terms not unfamiliar to all of us who just this past week learned of our nation's plan to launch a permanent manned space station. Orwell's central concern was that technology, such as an ever-present space station, could evolve into the kind of media dictatorship which he himself had seen develop in the USSR and in Nazi Germany. Orwell did not predict as inevitable a world in which an omnipresent government characterized as Big Brother would monitor, dominate, and shape every thought and every word. But he did see his 1984 as clearly possible. Indeed, Orwell's dark vision of the future is not without some degree of reality in, for example, the controlled media world of the Soviets and their satellites. But to the extent that Orwell's vision has not occurred, it is because we as a society have realized that while technology is a significant part of our present environment and of our future, the important questions are not technical ones. They are not new to the world of 1984. Rather, the important questions are eternal and unchanging. They are questions of justice, of wisdom, of courage, of fortitude, of human love, and human compassion. They are questions which undoubtedly have been raised with increasing complexity in your classes in physics and genetics and biotechnology. But they are questions which are more likely to have been answered by what you have learned in philosophy and religion, in literature and in history. Technology does not change the nature of our human concerns, nor the essence of our power to deal with those concerns. As the president of St. John's College of Annapolis recently observed, we could always preserve life or destroy it. We could always kill. What is different is that in the past, we could kill only on a retail scale. Now we can kill wholesale. But we did not have to await the technology of 1984 to kill rapaciously. Within my lifetime and that of your parents and that of George Orwell, the most vile mass slaughter occurred in the prison camps of Auschwitz, Dachau, Buchenwald, and Majdanek. It was the sin of man's inhumanity to man, not the fact of the technology of gas ovens, which led to those slaughters. The risk was not, is not, in technology. The risk was and is in us. The answers were not and are not in technology, but rather they reside in ethics, in moral philosophy, in the Ten Commandments, in the Sermon on the Mount. It is only if we forget that rich heritage of virtue, nobility, and human compassion and justice, which has been an essential part of your liberal education at Rhode Island College, that Orwell's 1984 will become a reality. The central task of your generation is to preserve and apply and expand that heritage so that 1984 will remain a work of non-predictive fiction, and the class of 1984 will be remembered for its wisdom, its humanity, and its godliness. Thank you.
As always, Dr. McMahon, we are grateful to you for the quality of the thought that you bring to our commencements and to the Office of Higher Education. We are fortunate to have with us today other representatives of the Board of Higher Education, the Board of Governors for Higher Education, and I'd like to ask that you recognize, by having them stand, Henry J. Nardone, the Vice Chair of the Board of Governors, Blanche Murray, and Mildred Nichols. Would you please stand? And representing the Board of Regents for Elementary Secondary Education, we have Rachel Cunha. And would Rachel please stand? You have noted, I'm sure, greetings from the Mayor of the town of North Providence, and I wonder if Mayor Mancini would please stand so that we could recognize him also. Mayor Mancini? Our next presentation is brought to us by one who, in a very real sense, is having something of a homecoming today. It is a pleasure to introduce to this audience Jean Meroff, who served Rhode Island College as the first director of its news bureau in the early 1960s, and who has since gone on to national and even international recognition as the author of several books and articles in the field of education, most recently School and College Partnerships in Education, published under the auspices of the Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching. He's received several awards for his writing, including one from the Education Writers Association. His activities are many and varied, including membership on the advisory board of the Institute for Educational Management at Harvard Graduate School of Education. Currently, he is education writer for the New York Times. We're delighted to welcome back Mr. Gene Meroff. Gene?
Carlotti, Dr. McMahon, Sweet, platform guests, friends, and graduates. It's very nice to be here today, and now I know a little bit of how Rip Van Winkle felt. Because for me, just as it was for Rip, this month it's exactly 20 years since I left Rhode Island College. And I hope I wasn't sleeping all that time. But it is an awakening to come back to a place like this and see the changes and to remember what it was like. It had just had 1,000 students for the first time, and Adams Library was just opening then, and the dining hall. I remember in this auditorium, among the many attractions I had a chance to hear, there was folk singer Josh White, and Helga Sandberg gave a lecture here. And I also recall that there was supposed to be a student performance in this auditorium one weekend that was canceled. It happened to be in November 1963 when President Kennedy was assassinated, and that was canceled in respect for that. But I remember Rhode Island College as a very warm and friendly place, and from what I've been exposed to on this return, I feel that it still hasn't changed in that respect. When I was at Rhode Island College, I probably held a dual capacity that maybe nobody else in the United States ever held. I indeed, as Dr. Sweet said, was the first news bureau director, and I was also varsity wrestling coach. And I don't think anybody ever had that combination of jobs any place I could think of. It was a time that Rhode Island College was just coming out of its tradition as exclusively a teacher's college, which most of you probably know was then known as Rice, Rhode Island College of Education. And if we'd been gathering for this commencement 25 years ago, every one of you graduates would be preparing to get your degree in education and preparing to go into the public schools as teachers. One of the changes, not only at this institution but all around the country, is reflected in the fact that about 20% of you, about 1 out of 5, has prepared to go into elementary and secondary school teaching. At institutions of higher education around the country, students have abandoned education as a major field of study, kind of the way that consumers fled from Tylenol just a few years ago. You've all heard the reasons for this, and I'm not about to belabor you with them. Suffice to say that education as a career no longer has a great deal of appeal, especially to the legions of women who had few other opportunities and were brainwashed into thinking they couldn't do much else and were conspired against by society. Fortunately, that's changed a good deal. It's not unique to any profession to endure the vicissitudes of popularity and disfavor. Who would have thought just a few years ago, for example, that now there would be so many people who are majoring in accounting, journalism, engineering. These are fields that didn't have people just flocking to them a few years ago. Right now at Rhode Island College, from the statistics I've seen, there are just about as many who major in psychology as in elementary education. That's quite a change. But when people stop finding any appeal in elementary and secondary education as a field of interest, there's something very special for society to look at. And there are enormous consequences in the fact that it has passed out of favor. We're talking about the people who are going to educate the next generation, the people whose influence, as Henry Adams said, lasts for an eternity. The teachers in whose presence you spent your time in elementary and secondary school and right here at Rhode Island College help make it possible for you to reach the point in your life that you're celebrating today. Everybody of any age could think of teachers at various points who've had enormous influence on their lives. So I think that a discussion of the problems of the teaching profession is appropriate today, even if only a minority of you are planning to become teachers. After all, the problems of public school teaching should be a matter of concern to all citizens. And this is an especially important forum in which to address those problems, considering the tradition of Rhode Island College as a preeminent institution for preparing teachers. All of you, whether you're going to become teachers or not, as citizens, as parents, as taxpayers, are going to feel the effects of the schools. Some say that education's vanishing appeal as a profession can simply be reversed by offering people more money to become teachers. And this is probably true if the money could be found to make sure that anyone who wants to become an elementary and secondary school teacher, any place, could be assured of starting at least $25,000 and know that during the course of his or her career that salary would double in real dollars. We don't do that. And it isn't about to happen, regardless of what you may hear. Teachers across the country begin at an average salary of less than $14,000 and may wind up at about $22,000, $23,000 a year after working their way up a scale that, except for union negotiated increases, cuts off before they ever reach middle age. I've met teachers in the state of New Hampshire who've been doing it for 15 years and still haven't reached $14,000. The unlikelihood of massive raises for teachers is underscored by the fact that it would take $20 billion just to boost the salary of every teacher in this country by $10,000 a year. And that says nothing about finding the money to keep those salaries rising after that. $20 billion is about the amount that we spend each year in this country on cigarettes and other tobacco products. But an increment of that sort is not going to be made available for the public schools. Maybe for B-1 bombers, maybe for MX missiles. That's why all of these reports on education that came out during the past year didn't bother trying to figure out where the money would come from to pay for these proposed changes. And without the money, many of the proposals are like pie in the sky, morsels so distant they can scarcely be seen, let alone tasted. Oh, there are small incentives, small moves that can be made to offer more financial incentive for prospective teachers. Governor Mario Cuomo in New York State this month proposed that fairly generous loans be made available for people who are majoring in education, and that those loans be forgiven after people go into teaching. Such states as Kentucky, Georgia, California, and Florida are moving in this direction. As attractive as these provisions may be, however, they do not address the basic issue of finding money to enrich salaries once teachers are on the job. So if institutions dedicated to educating teachers are no longer able to attract as many talented newcomers to a career in the classroom, what is to be done? I suggest that there are at least 4 basic changes that have to occur in the schools and in society generally in the absence of these monumental amounts of money. After all, nobody at any time ever became a teacher to get rich. But there were non-material rewards that helped make the career worthwhile and offset the disadvantages of low pay. There was dignity in teaching in elementary and secondary schools. Teachers were valued. Society respected them. Parents supported them. Pupils deferred to them. It felt good to be a teacher because the public recognized that what the teacher was doing was an underpinning of the community. No more, I'm sorry to tell you. School teaching is held in low esteem. Sometimes it's a wonder that those who work in the nation's classrooms don't have inferiority complexes. Many parents automatically side with their children in any dispute with the schools. And students, well, they know what counts. It's not knowledge and the wisdom that it breeds, not unless the result is enough money to buy all those goodies that are advertised on television. Society will get good students, more good students, to become teachers when it decides that teaching is a profession to be honored, and when this impression is conveyed to the young people who are growing up and choosing careers. Obviously, those of you who've chosen to be teachers felt something of this, but it has to be conveyed on a much larger scale. And bringing about this change will not be an easy matter. It requires a reorientation of values. Until it happens, though, it will be that much harder to attract into teaching more of the kind of people that every mother and father would like to have spending time in a classroom with their children. So number one, if we can't afford or are unwilling to pay proper salaries, is the need for a reorientation of societal values so that teachers are at least accorded some of the status that money can't buy. Number two, if talented people are to be willing to go into schoolrooms to earn a living, the working conditions have to improve. In too many schools, teaching has become downright unpleasant. Add this distastefulness to the low salary, and it's a wonder that some of you persevered long enough to become teachers. Too often, principals and supervisors treat teachers like lackeys. Mary Futrell, the president of the National Education Association, says that, quote, "You must realize the need for teacher involvement in helping shape not only the minds of their students, but in helping to provide the format in which that shaping and molding will take place," unquote. Good working conditions demand that teachers have a say in the planning of the curriculum and in everything that takes place in the school. For all too many teachers, the circumstances of working in a public school are demoralizing, depressing, and even dangerous. Why, for example, should anyone put his or her personal safety on the line to make a living when it isn't even part of the job description? At least for someone who's becoming a firefighter or a police officer, life-threatening situations are part of the bargain. There are 5,200 incidents against teachers committed each month in the nation's public schools, according to a report from the federal government's National Institute of Education. Of course, this does not include 282,000 incidents against students each month in these same schools. Once there was at least the virtual assurance of lifetime employment to make it worth the hassle. More than one child of the Depression felt that security was reason enough to become a school teacher. Ask some of the teachers up in Massachusetts, where Proposition 2.5 became law, what shortages of tax revenues have meant to the guarantee of a lifetime job. Maybe in these times of retrenchment and declining enrollment, it's no longer feasible to offer the promise of lifetime employment, but it should be possible, at least, to offer the amenities that make the working place more pleasant and a little less isolated for a teacher. An article in the January issue of the Phi Delta Kappan, an important journal devoted to elementary and secondary education, describes the effects of teacher isolation. Teachers responding to a survey noted that they had little or no opportunity to observe other teachers at work. They had no basis of comparison, in other words, to know how other teachers were doing the same things that they were trying to do. Why do principals not do more to break down this isolation? Why don't school boards, school committees, why don't they see the necessity for this so that teachers can feel that they're part of a collegial effort? How often do school systems relieve teachers to be able to observe their colleagues? Not very often in most school systems. Most schools don't show this kind of consideration for teachers. Did you ever hear, for example, of a principal who sent around coffee to the teachers? After all, here's a person barely able to find enough time to go to the bathroom, a person who gets very little relief and comfort. It wouldn't be a very big deal in the whole scheme of things for the principal to send around a coffee wagon to dispense a cup to each teacher every morning and afternoon. But that's a heretical notion, and that will never happen. The third area in which there ought to be change to make teaching more attractive and to help teachers be better at their jobs, regardless of what's done about salaries, is in the schools of education. Mary Thorpe, whose name is known here and was once a very important person here, bristled whenever she heard anybody speak of teacher training. Training is for circus seals, she said. Education is for future teachers. Well, the observation still applies. Courses that educate ought to be the core of the preparatory experience at all teacher preparatory institutions. Methods courses have a place, but people who become teachers should not have to suffer through the worst of the methods courses, the kind that stifle interest and pose little intellectual challenge. A good deal of reassessment is needed in the way that teachers are educated for their work in this country. What the public wants more than anything, and what those who are preparing to be teachers deserve, is an education in which the content of all courses is substantial. I can't offer you a full prescription for remedying what ails schools of education, but as one observer who makes his living describing what takes place in the classrooms of this country, I can note that some of the teachers, and in turn their students, would be better off if teacher education were improved. A better course of study that leads to an improved finished product could help attract more of the kind of people into teaching who might be there otherwise. Finally, the classroom teacher could benefit from more professionalization. Those who do the job best should be recognized and afforded the opportunity to make contributions beyond the confines of their classrooms. They should not have to become principals and supervisors to do this. They should be given time to share their thoughts and their expertise with their colleagues, who would be better teachers, who would gain from being involved with each other. I don't want to foment a debate here over the desirability of merit pay or career ladders or master teacher programs. Suffice to say that new approaches are needed to make certain that teachers remain stimulated and stimulating. This should be no threat to teacher organizations. They, in fact, should be invited to contribute toward discovering and designing some of these initiatives. Professionalization also demands that if teachers are going to be required to take courses once they are on the job, so-called in-service credits, those courses ought to be more than simply empty academic credits. Too many institutions of higher education have viewed in-service simply as a way to generate tuition income and keep education professors employed. Teachers know when they're being fed slop instead of something nutritious. But teachers, too, have an agenda. And when they need the courses to get more money on the ladder, they swallow hard and become accessories to the deceit. Some schools of education have abandoned such practices. All of the better ones in this country have. But you have to remember that almost half of all of the four-year colleges in this country have teacher education programs. And although the leaders may have improved, there are still a lot of institutions in this country turning out teachers that have not made the improvements. The whole idea is for teachers to be encouraged to grow as professionals, not to stagnate, as unfortunately so many have done. There should be more interest in this country in holding on to the best teachers rather than worrying about getting rid of the bad teachers. And if money is not going to be made available in large amounts, and even if it were, the route to this goal is greater professionalization. Lest you get the wrong idea, I don't want you to leave thinking that I'm letting teachers off the hook for everything that's gone wrong in the schools. There are many things that teachers have no control over in the schools. But there are people who've become teachers, and all of us along the way in our education have experienced some of them, who never should have become teachers in the first place, or who should have turned in their license a long time ago. Teachers have to accept a certain amount of the responsibility for the massive failure of the schools in the inner cities of this country, where so many of the minority children are consigned to life's scrap heap. But the matter before us is the crucial issue of attracting some of the best of America's young people, more of the people like those in this auditorium who've chosen to become teachers, into that same career. Those who set policy for the public schools must be more creative. They must explore other avenues if the road to increased salaries is closed or barely open. All of us have a stake in the outcome of this venture. Thank you very much.
Gene, those of us who are involved today with teacher education, I think on the basis of what we have just heard, are absolutely convinced that the best possible preparation for the reform effort is a career as a wrestling coach at Rhode Island College. There's no doubt that the problems of teacher education and the problems of education are calling upon this nation to engage in a mighty wrestling match with their souls. And I am grateful to you for sharing with us the fruits of your wrestlings on this subject, for they are full of wisdom, and they are a challenge to those of you who are graduating today and to those of us who are remaining here. For every one of us in this auditorium has a responsibility for making the effort, at least making the effort, to cope with the challenges that are confronting our nation's schools that have been so forcefully brought to our attention by some 20 different national reports. Jean, we are grateful to you indeed for highlighting our opportunities and the demands that are upon us in this year of 1984. Thank you. Dr. Willard F. Entenmann, Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs, will initiate proceedings for the conferral of degrees. Provost Entenmann.
Mr. President, it is my privilege to present to you candidates for honorary degrees. As this college's Chief Academic Officer, it may be fitting for me to reflect for you upon the processes for selecting recipients of honorary degrees and on the purposes of honorary degrees. As we prepare for each commencement, we ask for suggestions from people to whom we might grant an honorary degree. A very large number of suggestions are made. A committee composed of members of the Rhode Island College community considers these suggestions very carefully and investigates each proposal. The committee puts in many long hours doing the selection work and finally makes recommendations to the Council of Rhode Island College and to the President, who considers the earlier suggestions and the final recommendations. The President then makes the final decision in the context of the recommendations of the committee and the Council. Consequently, it is clear that the people we are to honor here today have been selected carefully and thoughtfully. We engage in this unusual effort because the granting of an honorary degree serves an important purpose. We seek to recognize and honor people who have made significant contributions to education and to the community. We do so today, and in presenting such distinguished people, we do honor to ourselves as well as to them. In granting degrees to other people at this ceremony, we remind them that the degree carries with it obligations. Obligations to help, aid, and nurture this college, which is now theirs. We are delighted to have such distinguished people join us in sharing responsibilities for our Rhode Island College community, and we are especially delighted to welcome them to this community. Dr. Sweet will now confer honorary degrees upon our special guests. Dr. Nazarian, Vice President for Administration and Finance, will assist me in the hooding. Mr. President, I have the honor to present for the honorary degree Doctor of Humane Letters, Galway Cannell.
Galway Cannell, visionary poet, innovative translator, and provocative teacher. Born in Providence, Rhode Island, a graduate of Princeton University, you were awarded a master's degree from the University of Rochester. Since then, your numerous accomplishments and honors include teaching posts in various colleges and universities in the United States, France, Iran, and Australia, 2 Guggenheim Fellowships, an award from the National Institute of Arts and Letters, of which you are now an elected member, a Rockefeller Foundation grant, a Brandeis University Creative Arts Award, an Amy Lowell Traveling Scholarship, and the Cecil Hemley Poetry Prize. Your 14 published books include brilliant translations from the French, a novel hailed for its pared-down language and precise, sensuous imagery, and 8 books of poetry of such significance and quality that your latest book, Selected Poems, which includes representative poems from all of your previous books, was awarded the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry last year. We honor you today as the maker of those luminous poems and as the skilled craftsman fulfilling Walt Whitman's optimistic edict to American poets to rejoice in their national heritage by celebrating in language. Our last words are your own, as you ruminate on another American poet, Robert Frost. A man, what shall I say, vain, not fully convinced he was dying, whose calling was to set up in the wilderness of his country at whatever cost, a man who would be his own man, we think of you, and from the same doorway at which you lived, between the woods, the house and the woods, we see your old footprints going away across the great republic. Frost, up memorized slopes, down hills, floating by heart on the bulldozed land. Therefore, by the authority vested in me and by the concurrent action of the Board of Governors for Higher Education and the faculty of Rhode Island College, I confer upon you the honorary degree of Doctor of Humane Letters with all the rights, benefits, and privileges pertaining thereto, and in token whereof I present you with this diploma and cause you to be vested with the insignia of the degree.
Mr. President, I have the honor to present for the honorary degree Doctor of Humane Letters, Roman Vishniak.
Roman Vishniak, physician, biologist, photographer, teacher, humanist, artist. Having become fascinated by both science and photography at an early age, you attained worldwide renown, especially because of your discoveries in the field of photomicrography. With a doctorate in zoology, a degree in medicine, and the equivalent of another doctorate in Oriental art, you have perfected the process of using time-lapse photography, which you invented, polarized light, colorization, and other innovative techniques to photograph living cells and organisms and to publish beautiful portraits of these building blocks of life. Believing that biology is the gateway to all sciences and that it is important that our youth study biology and learn it in the best possible way, you shared your artistic photographs and slides on countless occasions and in innumerable ways throughout the past 40 years. As former president of the New York Etymological Society and a fellow of the New York Academy of Sciences, the Royal Microscopical Society, and the Biological Photographic Association, you have sought to prove through research, photomicrography, publications, and lecturing your belief that in nature every bit of life is lovely. You have also been concerned during the past 50 years with the Holocaust perpetuated on the Jewish peoples of Eastern Europe, documenting through your sensitive photographs the vanished world and the sufferings endured by a people struggling to survive. Because of your willingness to risk your life and to be incarcerated in both prison and concentration camp in order to fulfill an obligation to the 101 members of your family who died during the exterminations of the 1930s and 1940s, you have accomplished what you set out to do, namely, to preserve a world that might not exist, to save the faces. Therefore, by the authority vested in me, and by the concurrent action of the Board of Governors for Higher Education and the faculty of Rhode Island College, I confer upon you the honorary degree of Doctor of Humane Letters with all the rights, benefits, and privileges pertaining thereto, and in token whereof I present you with this diploma and cause you to be vested with the insignia of the degree.
Mr. President, I have the honor to present for the honorary degree Doctor of Pedagogy, Jean Irving Miroff.
Jean Irving Miroff, award-winning journalist and author, leading educational observer, and in the highest sense of the term, educational critic. Through your masterful research and carefully presented reasoning and conclusions, you have, in the columns of the New York Times and in your books, contributed much to the education of the nation about education. In school and college, partnerships and education, you have reminded teachers and professors, principals and presidents that education is a seamless web. Communication between the sectors is urgently required. In the same work, you have admonished us that to achieve successful cooperation among the nation's colleges and schools, a common agenda must be acknowledged, a true spirit of collaboration must emerge, a single project must be identified, those involved must be adequately rewarded, the focus must be on activities, not machinery. In recognizing you today, this institution, perhaps your first professional employer, acknowledges the wisdom of your admonitions and the keenness of your insights in an area central to the future of Rhode Island College. Moreover, the college today also publicly acknowledges its debt to you, not only as creator of its first news bureau, but also as its first intercollegiate wrestling coach, a combination which may well be unprecedented in, but is by no means inappropriate to, American higher education. Thus, this college joins the Education Writers Association, the International Reading Association, the American Association of University Professors, and the Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching in celebrating you as a teacher of teachers and as an instructor of citizens. Therefore, by the authority vested in me, and by the concurrent action of the Board of Governors for Higher Education and the faculty of Rhode Island College, I confer upon you the honorary degree of Doctor of Pedagogy with all the rights, benefits, and privileges pertaining thereto, and in token whereof I present you with this diploma and cause you to be vested with the insignia of the degree.
Mr. President, it is my pleasant obligation to introduce the several deans who, on behalf of the appropriate faculty, will recommend to you conferment of degrees indicating successful completion of studies in course. Primarily, this is a time of celebration for the candidates and their families, noting the passage of these students into the society of learned women and men. But it is also a time of celebration for those of us on the faculty. A provost, as chief academic officer, has a double role to play. On the one hand, he is a member of the faculty and thus joins with his colleagues in recommending and celebrating this passage. On the other hand, he represents the faculty to the rest of the world. In that latter capacity, let me say a word about our faculty. Teaching is a lonely profession. The best teachers must always swim against the tide and resist the easy temptation to be lenient and merely supportive. We must often make critical evaluations and comments which hurt us as much or more than our students. But we have an obligation to do the very best for our students, even while we hope they will rise above our criticism. We labor alone. Accordingly, Mr. President, before presenting the deans for the conferment of degrees, I should like to make one final request of our students. For their faculty, who have sought nothing but the best for their students, I should like to ask the students to join me and rise in a standing ovation of thanks to those who have meant so much, our faculty. Dr. John Salas, Assistant Vice President for Academic Affairs and Dean of Graduate Studies, will present the candidates for the Certificate of Advanced Graduate Studies and for the various master's degrees within the School of Graduate Studies.
Will the candidates for the Certificate of Advanced Graduate Study, the Master of Arts in Teaching, Master of Education, and Masters of Social Work degrees, please stand. Mr. President, I have the honor to present the 1984 candidates for graduate degrees. These candidates have completed all requirements for the degrees to be conferred and are recommended to you by the faculty of Rhode Island College and the Board of Governors for Higher Education.
By virtue of the authority vested in me, and with the concurrent action of the faculty of Rhode Island College and the Board of Governors for Higher Education, I confer upon you the advanced degrees for which you are qualified, with all the rights, privileges, and honors pertaining thereto, and in token thereof will present you your diploma.
Would you please refrain from applause until all degrees have been conferred? For the Certificate of Advanced Graduate Study, Brenda F. Brenner. Charles H. Cummings, Leslie D. Imprata, Bernard A. Selby, Jr., for the Master of Arts degree, Karen L. Atkin, Dennis H. Auger, Michael A. Benavides, Dennis E. Brown, Robert A. Crossley, William A. Densmore. For the Certificate of Advanced Graduate Study, Patricia J. Munzer. For the Master of Arts degree, Karen L. Atkin, Dennis H. Auger, Michael H. Benavides, Dennis E. Brown, Robert A. Crossley, William E. Densmore, Teresa A. Depot, Pamela J. Downing, Jennifer A. Greer, Pauline M. Hamley, Michael D. Hanson, Anne Marie Harrison, Linda S. Haskell, Kathleen R. Higbee, Sheila B. Howe, Angela D. Jordan, Elaine D. Joyal Healy, Gail McDougall, Michael L. McDougall, Kevin J. Manny, Charles Marshall, Sister Maureen F. McElroy, Claudia C. McNally, Lorraine A. Monahan, Barbara A. Senna, Richard H. Corrin, John C. Aruda, Martha E. Callan, Deborah L. Konowitz, David B. Balfour, Scott E. Green, Robert A. Burrell, Thomas J. Conroy, Kathleen Meehan, Angeline M. Mizello, Ruth L. McVeigh, Tracy B. Wilcox, Diane S. Weiss, Aspasia Sonos. For the Master of Arts in Teaching, Rebecca D. Hoeth, Juanita E. Lincolnback, Eugenie McCants, Elizabeth L. Tremblay, John A. Langeroux, David G. Iadavea, Linda A. Roussel, Michelle A. Ferreira, Henry P. Morrill, Judith A. Pinto. For the Master of Education, Joel A. Sullivan, Joseph J. Flood, Patricia C. Booth, Jane A. Conway, Joyce C. Johnson, Karen Cotton, Colleen Maha Hurahan, Patricia A. Martin, Bernice M. Martins, Ellen McGill, Ann C. Morangiello, Robert J. Orm, Jr., Nancy E. Ross, Martha H. Ruby, Norma R. Villamore, Joanne M. Crossman, Anne Marie Kachanis, Deborah R. Hayes, Wayne R. Collins, Jose M. Delator, Robert Lamoy, Kevin L. Ornazian, Stephen K. Scuba, John C. Kelly, James R. Wilson, Pauline A. Allard, Deborah A. Bissett, Elizabeth A. Box, Susan M. Carpenter, Diane D. Michelle, Marlene R. Gamba, Rita L. Watson, Mary L. Betters, Ruth E. Carpenter, Carolyn M. Gould, Nick A. Milas, Janice K. Delisle, Carolyn F. Frayne, Linda A. Martin, Catherine I. Walker, Janice A. Wheeler, Denise A. Hebert, Maureen E. Kenny-Coal, Patricia A. Maynard, Daniel R. McCarthy, Barbara A. Patterson, Michelle Perrault, Diane M. Raposa, Patricia J. Charis, Karen M. Friedman Conway, Patricia A. Fruworth, Sandra G. Keenan, Susan W. McLaughlin. The Master of Social Work, Elaine M. Mahunke, Carol A. Reeve.
To bring remarks on behalf of the baccalaureate degree candidates, it is my special pleasure to introduce Mr. Charles V. Schwartz, who will receive his Bachelor of General Studies degree during these ceremonies. He is graduating with a cumulative index of 3.87 out of a possible 4.0. Mr. Schwartz.
Mr. Carlotti, Dr. McMahon, President Sweet, Mr. Meyerhoff, honored guest, members of the faculty, graduates, family, friends, my interpreter, thank you. On behalf of the graduating class of January 1984, I bid farewell to Rhode Island College. Well, we made it. I'm impressed by the diversity of our class. When I started college in 1966, many of you were only 5 years old. So I'd like to congratulate you for your accomplishment, for your achievement, and the speed at which you were able to accomplish it. It took me almost 18 years to get here. So on behalf of the continuing education students, the general studies students, and the labor studies students, I want to thank and commend the college and the administration for its commitment to having these programs that can attract and interest older students such as myself. Looking back on my educational experience here, I recall, as I'm sure we all do, not only hard work and long hours of study, but rewarding moments of intellectual stimulation, camaraderie, and downright fun. What we, the graduates, have in common is that we are recipients of a social program, this publicly supported educational institution. Few of us would be here today if we had been required to pay the full cost, the actual cost of our education, some 5 times what the tuition is. As with any successful social program, not only do we, the recipients, benefit, but society as a whole gains from our participation. We will be more productive members of society having received this education. So on behalf of all the graduating students, I would like to thank the providers of this program, the faculty, staff, clerical, maintenance, and cafeteria workers, library and security personnel, deans, administration, student employees, our fellow taxpayers, and the state of Rhode Island. Having said this, I would like to mention what I see as a threat to this and all social programs, and that is the conservative social philosophy that is embodied in the present federal administration. This philosophy holds that people are only entitled to what they can pay the full cost of, that education is a privilege of the rich, and that the primary function of government is not to ensure the well-being of its citizenry, but is rather what President Reagan called last week defense. Is it defense to invade Grenada and Nicaragua? For whose defense are our troops fighting and dying in Lebanon and Central America? This conservative philosophy views social spending not as a benefit to the society, but as an impediment to the economic growth of large corporations. I would like to urge everyone here who feels that they, their friends and relatives, benefit from publicly supported education to work to defeat that philosophy that sees the only valid motive not as social concern, but private individual gain. Thank you very much.
I'm given to understand that there'll be a response to that tonight at 10:55. Congratulations, Mr. Schwartz, and thank you for your support for this institution and this experiment in social service. You have demonstrated by your remarks that indeed we are performing well the tasks we have set out to do. We've come to that point that a fair number of you have been waiting for. And I do believe that you're going to make it. I think the first step is for the provost to say something. Mr. Provost?
Dr. David Green, Associate Professor of Chemistry and Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Sciences, will present the candidates for the baccalaureate degrees within the Faculty of Arts and Sciences.
Will the candidates for baccalaureate degrees within the Faculty of Arts and Sciences please stand? Mr. President, I have the honor to present the class of 1984 candidates for the degrees of Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of General Studies, Bachelor of Music, and Bachelor of Science within the Faculty of Arts and Sciences. These candidates have completed all requirements for the degrees and are recommended to you by the faculty and by the Board of Governors for Higher Education.
Members of the class of 1984, candidates for the degrees of Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of General Studies, Bachelor of Music, and Bachelor of Science within the Faculty of Arts and Sciences, by virtue of the authority vested in me, and with the concurrent action of the faculty of Rhode Island College and the Board of Governors for Higher Education, I confer upon you the degree of Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of General Studies, Bachelor of Music, or Bachelor of Science, with all the rights, privileges, and honors pertaining thereto, and in token thereof will present you your diplomas.
Will the audience please refrain from applause until all degrees have been awarded? Receiving the degree of Bachelor of Arts, Liberal Arts, Adewale Akinsulir, Robert Albanese, Stephen P. Alberg, Thomas A. Ali, Gail Amaral, Dawn Amaral, Michelle O'Cohen, Joseph Avella, Alex Bamasil, Sherry Bestwick, magna cum laude, Michael L. Blasi, Paul J. Brown, Peter T. Kane, Myrtle O. Chappelle, Lynn A. Chudy, David J. Similor, Ruth K. Cook, cum laude, Jeffrey J. Corbett, Paul N. Parenti, Hasmig Darakjian, Lisa J. David, Diane M. Davis, cum laude, Levon M. Davis-Schenk, magna cum laude, Anthony M. DeRoy, Stephen E. DeShiara, Louis L. DeToro, Mark DeBurke, Victoria A. Eden, Lori Eliff, Aber Esquiaqui, Teresa Fish, Dwight Fisher, Octavio Fonseca, Vincent Fortier, magna cum laude, Kenneth E. Gober, John H. Goldman, Michael T. Hammond, cum laude, Brian M. Harrington, John J. Hoffey, Michael F. Heaney, Richard R. Hertzler, Robert B. Hornstein, Stephen A. Houghton, Jeffrey M. Hughes, Mary E. Hughes, cum laude, Patrick C. Jansen, John P. Joles, Kathleen T. Keating, Celeste A. Labont, cum laude, Lisa M. LaFerriere, Peter G. Lancelotti, Joseph A. Lewis, John L. Longo, Jr., E. Marie Maher, magna cum laude, Charles G. Madison, Lauren J. McCormick, magna cum laude, Maria Medina, Raymond Moffat, magna cum laude, Teresa M. Morello, cum laude, James J. Mountain, Mary A. Navola, Valerie Nicolo, Christopher P. O'Halloran, Lori J. Ovalis, Beth A. Pagliorini, cum laude, John E. Pillardi, Peter W. Phillips, Ann F. Polos, cum laude, Vincent Quinterno, Donna M. Reed, Rachel Renshausen, Joanne Ritchie, Margaret Reel, cum laude, Mona Risk, Stephen N. Root, Patricia A. Ryan, Elizabeth R. Saviano, Michael K. Scott, Michael A. Sedgey, Kathleen P. Sylvan, Lana M. Spinelli, Nora Stark, James Stephen, Helena C. Storti, cum laude, Jeffrey B. Sullivan, Stephen P. Sullivan, Ann E. Tully, Catherine A. Valenti, Vistoria Wright, Sandra Zifchak, Asterios Zisiades. Receiving the degree of Bachelor of General Studies, Eugene D. Browning, Kenneth Cox, Sharon Gleckman, magna cum laude, Geraldine Gregory, Mary P. Hogan, Patrick F. O'Connors, magna cum laude, Lois A. Pucci, Judith A. Reynolds, Camillo J. Rossi, Charles V. Schwartz, magna cum laude, receiving the degree of Bachelor of Science in the Liberal Arts, Gina M. DeCurtis, Theodore A. LaChance, and Management, Adewale Ankin-Sulir, John V. Berry, Mercedes Brett, Renee Chacoan, Richard A. Croce, Robert P. Diorsi Jr., Robert E. Downey, Christopher R. Dykeman, Thomas A. Elby, Paul Fontaine, Terrence W. Jones, Mary Kelleher, Denise M. Laporte, Ava M. Martinelli, Jane M. Marzullo, Susan A. McCarthy, Mary E. Monacchio, Stephen R. Muchiri, Laurie J. Ovalis, Peter W. Phillips, Thomas J. Pentadosi, Joseph B. Pompaselli, Gregory C. Pope, Esther Rahani, Darren R. Rossi, Donna M. Santilli, Margaret M. Sharkey, David M. Susi, Kristen M. Stender, Constance Vadney, magna cum laude, Christopher Wapasek, and in nursing, Nancy M. Battistini, magna cum laude, Lenore C. Goodmanson, cum laude, and Helen A. Keck, magna cum laude.
Dr. Clyde Slicker, Chair of the Department of Elementary Education, will now present candidates for baccalaureate degrees within the School of Education and Human Development.
I'm pinch hitting for Dean Glasheen, who has let Mother Nature take her away with a flu bug just about 10 minutes ago. If I make an error on one of your names, it's not because we don't love and care for you here, but I've had just a few minutes to look some of these over. Will the candidates for the baccalaureate degrees within the School of Education and Human Development please stand? Mr. President, I have the honor to present the class of '84 candidates for the degrees of Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Science within the School of Education and Human Development. These candidates, who have completed all requirements for the degrees, are recommended to you by the faculty and the Board of Governors for Higher Education.
Members of the class of 1984, candidates for the Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Science degrees within the School of Education and Human Development. By virtue of the authority vested in me and with the concurrent action of the faculty of Rhode Island College and the Board of Governors for Higher Education, I confer upon you the degree of Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science with all the rights, privileges, and honors pertaining thereto, and in token thereof will present you your diploma.
For Bachelor of Arts in Elementary Education, Early Childhood, Claire M. Da Silva, Caroline M. Mokler, cum laude, Mary E. Perry, Michelle E. Reynolds, Diane M. Tambo. In Elementary Education Generalized, Carol E. Devine. In Secondary Education, Jean Bogosian, Maria S. Lorenko, Arlene F. Marks, Regine M. Notarani, magna cum laude, Lori A. Spinney. In Liberal Arts, Paul D. Archambault, Lisa R. Arsenault, Robert L. Bailey, Lorraine T. Bowden, Loretta A. Becker, Sherry A. Bestwick, magna cum laude, Luana S. Bradford, Melody A. Broadley, Ann S. Buchanan, cum laude, Tammy A. Karen, Karen A. Charpentier, Betsy M. Cohen, cum laude, Joanne Collins, cum laude, Mary E. Connorton, Christopher C. Costa, Jacqueline Cummings, Raymond P. DiCobolis, Donald M. DeMeglio, Cheryl G. Duarte, Janine P. Dubois, cum laude, Mary Ann Ekman, Donna M. Eduardo, Laura G. Fanning, Holly B. Fazzino, Thomas J. Grieshaber, Joanne M. Hickley, Jacqueline M. Holtquist, Melissa A. Johnston, Annalisa M. Landry, Mary A. LaPlante, magna cum laude, Joyce M. LaPola, magna cum laude, Wayne M. Limos, Sheila B. McCaughey, Lauren J. McCormick, magna cum laude. Alfred Moretti, Caroline M. Mosca, Sheila A. Palas, Mary L. Paola, Monica M. Quinn, cum laude. Charlene B. Santos, Stephen E. Smith, Cheryl A. Tavares, Kim M. Zuffoletti. For the Bachelor of Science in Art Education, Sandy K. Carpentier, Judith A. Therault. In Elementary Education, Early Childhood, Angela L. Andrews, cum laude. Donna J. Esprinio, magna cum laude. Sharon M. Callanan, Elizabeth A. Dion. Margaret A. Downs. Pamela L. Ducharme, magna cum laude. Barbara J. Gilbert. Caroline M. Handrigan. Lee A. Hughes. Delphina F. Machada. Diane M. Wheatonen. Joyce A. Oliveira. Karen Sadowski. Sharon M. Stern Brown. In Elementary Ed Generalized, Jane Appleton. Catherine A. Burdick. Lynn R. David. Linda C. Frazier. Jennifer L. Hunt. Elaine Mantiga. Lorraine L. Mincy. Karen E. Peterson. Arnett L. Prather. Lisa A. Rendine. Eva A. Sangren, magna cum laude. Ann Stratton. Bonnie L. Orsillo, cum laude. In Elementary School Physical Education, Marita A. Morrisroe. Kimberly C. O'Connor. In Health Education, Donna M. Carlone. Stephen Mancini. Cynthia J. Prue. Claire Tierney. In Industrial Arts, Joseph A. Bagaglia, Jr., magna cum laude. Scott R. Karen. David A. Garrity. Norman L. Lambert. Bruce K. Regan. George J. Shaheen. In Industrial Technology, Anthony A. Industrial Technology? Okay. Anthony A. Adagboyega. William H. Burke. Frank Colacone. Richard W. Kopp. Thomas M. Corey. Joseph Del Signore. Mark E. Impagliazzo. Thomas E. Kearns. Harry A. Kyle. Robert A. Pichette, cum laude. Robert A. Razino, cum laude. William M. Salerno. Mark D. Starring. Diane E. Znasko. In Music Education, Aminda E. Baird, magna cum laude. Karen K. Fields. Karen J. Toy, cum laude. In Vocational Industrial Education, Ralph G. Bernard and Joseph Barassa.
Dr. George Mitri, Professor of Social Work and Dean of the School of Social Work, will present candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Social Work within the School of Social Work.
Mr. President, I have the honor to present in absentia Michaela J. Stannard and Joyce A. Webb for the degree of Bachelor of Social Work. These candidates have completed all requirements for the degree and are recommended to you by the faculty and the Board of Governors for Higher Education.
By virtue of the authority vested in me and with the concurrent action of the faculty of Rhode Island College and the Board of Governors for Higher Education, I confer upon these candidates in absentia the Bachelor of Social Work degree with all the rights, privileges, and honors pertaining thereto. Those of you who have been following the proceedings today on your program know that we have reached the third from the last item. It is entitled President's Charge to the Graduates. It's $45 apiece. Actually, I did have a substantial charge to deliver you, and this is literally true. As I came in the door, a parent of one of you, I do not know of which one of you, recognized me and said, "Mr. President, I hope you're not going to make a long speech today." But you see, he's wrong. It was his father, who may have thought he was talking to his mother. I don't know. And so I have reduced it to just 4 propositions, none of which is my own. First, from John Galsworthy. The beginnings and endings of all human undertakings are untidy. The building of a house, the writing of a novel, the demolition of a bridge, and eminently the finish of a voyage. You have all finished one voyage today, and I suspect along the way you've encountered a modicum of untidiness. To console you, in addition to John Galsworthy, let me share this with you from Mark Twain's Pudd'nhead Wilson's New Calendar. We should be careful to get out of an experience only the wisdom that is in it, and stop there, lest we be like the cat that sits down on a hot stove lid. She will never sit down on a hot stove lid again, and that is well. But also, she will never sit down on a cold one anymore. From Plato. Bodily exercise, when compulsory, does no harm to the body, but knowledge which is acquired under compulsion obtains no hold on the mind. I trust you have not obtained knowledge under compulsion, and that it has indeed a hold on your mind. I charge you with that, and I end with wisdom from one of the wisest I've encountered. Her name is Arlene Sweet, and she says, "It's ridiculous to reason with people when you know you're right." I made up all the other quotations. The processional for this commencement was led by Dr. Joan I. Glazer, Chair of the Council of Rhode Island College. The recessional will be led by Noreen M. Andrioli, President of the Rhode Island College Alumni Association. This turnover represents a symbolic passing of responsibility from the faculty of the college to the alumni. We hope and ask that those of you graduating today will remain involved with Rhode Island College as supporters, and we look forward to greeting you on many occasions as thoughtful critics. Mrs. Sweet and I invite you, all of you, graduates and guests, to a reception in honor of our graduates at the Donovan Dining Center immediately following these ceremonies, and we hope all of you will join us. Following the singing of the college alma mater, please remain at your seats during the recessional so that the procession may pass, whereupon this commencement will be concluded. Please rise.